Hello, welcome back to another TLC video here. It's been a while. I finally have a little bit of downtime here and I figured why not, let's get back into the swing of things while I'm on a little bit of a winter break here of my actual full-time job. And I decided what better way to get back into the swing of things than having a melting down a module episode. Specifically going into what is arguably one of my favorite all-time modules that I've ever had the privilege of both being a player in as well as DMing for. So let's go ahead and get right on into it here. So, rating criteria. It's been a while since I've done one of these videos, so I kind of have to remind myself what I've done for some of these. So how I break down modules is that I look at their plot, I look at their map, their setting, their introduction, the hook, what brings players in. Player agency versus railroading, the difficulty, its ending, does it feel good? Is it a good ending? Does it leave players walking away feeling like they accomplished something? Or was it more of like a, I hate to shit on you again, but, Rhyme of Frostmaiden, where it's like, it's so convoluted and they end up ending each other if you do one versus the other, and just, how streamlined, how, I'm trying to think, there's a word for it, how good does it feel when the campaign is over? Accomplished. There we go. Any of my final thoughts, and of course I do all of this ranking 1 through 5. So for a plot, I give the plot of Curse of Strahd a 5 out of 5. It is fantastic. Anyone who's ever played this module knows, anyone who's DM'd this module knows, you can't go wrong with Gothic horror. I feel like that is the inspiration for quite a few D&D games. I think that Curse of Strahd is, for a lot of DMs, kind of the epitome of setting and of plot. You can't go wrong with an evil vampire, lord who's trying to reclaim his lost love, and in the process of doing so has become this absolute epitome of evil. I think it's awesome. The evil curses, you got hags, what is there to hate on? I think that it is an absolute amazing plot. I love everything about it. There's very few parts of it that I don't like. So for a plot, 5 out of 5, easy. For its map and setting, I give it another 5. I'm of the opinion that the Ravenloft Valley, which at my game when I run it, I'm actually currently in the state of running it for the 4th time for a group of fellow co-workers. I call it the Ravenloft Valley. I try very hard to not call it the Land of Barovia. The reason I do that is because I just know that eventually there's going to come a point where they will get to the town of Barovia. I kind of have my players start off on the opposite side of the valley. I actually have them start in Berez. In my world, I actually have Berez still standing. The players are actually going to get to live through the destruction of Berez. That's kind of my introduction for Strahd himself. He will eventually show up and will destroy the town, and that's going to be kind of the first time that they really meet Strahd. But anyway, I didn't want any confusion, so I have been calling it the Valley of Ravenloft. But anyway, the Valley of Ravenloft, Barovia, whatever you want to call it, to me it is a perfect size. I think that in terms of setting, it is horror-themed, done well. I think it's done really, really great. I think it does a great job of showing, not telling. I think quite a few missions here in Curse of Strahd, between the map, the setting, and everything, I think a lot of it does a very good job of saying, hey, instead of just telling your players that it's fucking cold, or hey, tell your players that they need to be scared. I think that the game itself does a really good job of really saying, don't tell, show. Make them go up against a hag that has turned children into pastries. Make them go into a, haunted woods where they have a very high likelihood of running into werewolves and deadly things that make them want to stay on the road, which is the point. I think that it's fantastic. And in terms of size, I think having 3 or 4 towns, a couple of small villages, but a lot of empty space. I see a lot of people, they kind of bitch sometimes about how much empty space there is in the Barovia map, with all the wooded areas and mountain areas and stuff like that. But to me, that's the golden age. That to me is the best part of any kind of module, is when they say, hey, here's the 3 or 4 key towns, and we're gonna flush them out very well, but all this empty area is up for you. Do you want to have a small village of Strahd worshipping druids in the Svalak woods? Go for it. Fucking have at it. Do you want to make your very own villages so that you can have absolute control of certain aspects of this game? Here's some empty space. Go do it. So I think that Barovia is the perfect size. I think that it's big enough that the players feel like the world is big, that they can't just go from one end to the other in 5 seconds, but it's also small enough that if they need to go from Vallaki to Kresk, it's not like, say, 10 towns where it's like, oh my god, here's this fucking slugfest where we have to go through, where it's going to take 3 days, we're going to have to go through a blizzard. Like, it's very, to me, it's almost the perfect size map. I love the size of the map, I love the setting, I have nothing to say negative about it. The only thing I would suggest is and actually I stole this idea completely out of XP to level 3. If you ever are a DM and you are running Curse of Strahd, I highly recommend that you start somewhere else that's not immediately under Castle Ravenloft, which is where Barovia, according to the module, you're supposed to start in the town of Barovia, and you're supposed to get Irina and Ismark out of Barovia. I find that that's kind of stupid. Both when I was a player and as a DM. The first time I ran it, I had DM who ran it as was written. And I found it very kind of stupid that it was like, we know Strahd's up there in the castle, and yet we're getting further away from him. Which, in my mind, it was like, okay, if we're trying to get away from him, then my character's trying to get the fuck out of Barovia. Like, he doesn't want to sit here and fight Strahd. He wants to get out. And so trying to flee the castle made me feel like that. Like, okay, we're just trying to get out, out of this place. We're not trying to free anybody. We're just trying to get the hell out. So then when all of a sudden the story switched to, okay, well, now we're going to try to make you actually care about this place. And we want you to care enough that you go out and try to fight Strahd and actually go back and get closer to him. I wasn't a fan of that. I like the old, kind of almost video game setup of start on one side of the map, get closer. And as you get closer to the big bad, it raises the difficulty. The party realizes why the fringes, why Kresk is able to kind of get away with, bad-mouthing him and not really listening to him. It's because they're so fucking far out there. But the closer you get, the more danger you're in. I like that vibe. So I would highly recommend that you do stay, have your players start far away on the other side of the map here, and get closer. To me, Barovia should be the last town your party gets to. Start over in Kresk, or start in your own little town. Do what I did. Start in Berez. Resurrect Berez, and have the players run through the destruction of it. I think that's a great idea. All right, introduction. For me, it's a 4. I love the introduction, which a lot of people consider the introduction of Curse of Strahd to be Death House. I have a whole video on why I think Death House is so great, but I also am fully aware that there are a lot of people who disagree with me. So I give it a 4, but if I'm going to listen to the community, and if I was playing it as written, I would have to give it to you. It is probably a 2 for everybody else. I love Death House. Personally, I think Death House is one of the iconic, like, it's a fucking haunted house. Like what's there to hate on it? Except the Shambling Mound, the Spectre that can easily one-shot a level 1 character, which is supposedly the level that you are when you go into Death House. The animated armor that can, again, absolutely one-shot you. The 4 ghouls, the 5 shadows that just come out of nowhere, and will attack you and will absolutely TPK a party if the DM actually rolls 5 shadows the way that 5 shadows are supposed to be rolled. Yeah. You see where this is going. It's why I give it a 2. I understand the gripes of Death House, which is why I'm willing to give it to you and say that I can understand why there are problems with this introduction. My issue is that, or my critique is to that assumption, is, to me, I think that Death House has a few easy fixes. I think if you just start your players off at level 2 even, just have your players be level 2 when they go into Death House, and have them get to level 3 when they get to, when they find the secret stairs, whatever. I believe that's where it says, hey, pause the game, level your players up, before they get down to the basement. So have them be level 3 there, so that when they fight, whatever it is you replace the Shambling Mound with, because you will not have a Shambling Mound in that fucking basement. There's no wiggle room there. Please, for the love of God, do not have a Shambling Mound down there. Have literally anything else. For my game, I had it that I homebrewed a little bit here of the story of the Durst family, and I know it's kind of spoilers for anybody, but I don't know how this is spoilers when literally this module's been out for like 20 years. But I homebrewed some of the Durst backstory a little bit, even changed some of the letter that Strahd sends to the Durst family that the players can find in that hidden chest. That the Durst family, the reason that they were worshiping him and sacrificing people wasn't just because they wanted to be like Strahd or to get his attention like some snot-nosed brat, which is what the module claims. I ruled it that they were actually trying to get immortality, that the Durst family and their followers were basically, they didn't know how Strahd became a vampire, but they thought that if they did these weird rituals that included all of these horrible aspects, that they could become like him. And so what I ended up doing was I had Strahd show up at the house, curse the house, just like the module claims, only he ended up transforming them, molding them into a flesh golem. And so when my players end up going down to the basement, they come across this, this disformed, horrible atrocity. The ligaments, the limbs, just this giant flesh mound golem of the cultists and Mr. and Mrs. Durst, who Strahd basically human centipede together, thereby granting them their wish. Very evil genie style, and allowing them to live forever. I don't know. I like that. I thought that worked out really, really well. My players really enjoyed it. So anyway, point is get your players up to level 2 first. Let them be level 3 before they go down and fight the 4 fucking ghouls. Have a little bit more warning for the shadows, just even something as simple as just, hey, there are a shit ton of skeletons in this room, and they're all seemingly running away. You can tell by their their rigor mortis statues, where they are right now, that, statuses, wherever, that they were trying to run away from the statue. Just something like that, so that then if the players still end up fucking touching it, then like, yeah, you guys were literally surrounded by giant "don't fuck with me" signs, and you guys decided to fuck with it. And then replace that Shambling Mound. Those 3 changes, and Death House immediately becomes this super awesome exploratory game fun house, that I think that, again, it's up to your imagination. I had a dinner on the dining room table that was an illusion. I had paintings that tried to suck players in. I included a couple of extra monsters in Death House, such as a animated rug that was trying to smother somebody. I had my very first mimic in Death House. I love Death House. I think it's a really great module, or a great part of this module. I think it's a great introduction, but since you have to make certain changes to it, I'm willing to knock my 4 down to it too. But hopefully I've at least convinced you a little bit. Alright, so for player agency versus railroading, I think that Curse of Strahd is, in my definition, a 5 out of 5 when it comes to this. It is a beautiful combination of both letting your players choose their own paths. Hey, go where you want, do what you want, but at the same time, the module has all of these awesome things that say, hey, if your players start to feel like they don't know where to go, here are some really awesome pushes to just kind of give them something to do. Go here, explore this place. There's in the moment that, it even says that, they meet Madame Eva so early in the game that immediately is like, hey, here's like the 4 things you need to go fight Strahd and actually have a pretty good chance of winning. So I think that this does such a great job of being open world, but not so open world that it feels like, once again, Rime of Frost Maiden, where it's like, yeah, here's this giant open world. We're not going to tell you what to do. We're not going to help you, the DM, out to try to push them in the right direction, so that when players start to free fall and are like, hey, we don't know what the fuck we're supposed to be doing, you know, and all the book says is, well, have they done the starting quest for fucking town number 7 yet? You know, here, have them go fight this fucking giant platypus monster. I know it's not actually a platypus, it's the P word dinosaur, but whatever the fucking case. You get my point. I just really, I love that it's a great combination of saying, hey, if the players want to go off and do whatever they want to do, they can go do it. But here's also all these ways that you as the DM can kind of push them into the direction of the story. To me, this is railroading done right. I love the combination. 5 out of 5. In terms of its difficulty and its ending, I consider this difficulty to be mediocre. It's not the hardest module, which is weird to say because so much in this shit can kill you. Death House, again, is called Death House for a reason. But when I look at, say, Strahd himself, I mean, if players are supposed to be like level 10, level 11 when they end up fighting him, like, they'll clean his fucking clock. Like, his stat block is absolutely awful. Even like your generic vampire is almost better than him. It's just, it's not great. And so if you were trying to play this game, module rules as written, and the players ended up, you know, meeting Strahd alone in the chapel, you know, with a pipe, kidding. That's a clue thing. Ha ha ha. Way to go there, TLC. You're fucking on the ball today. If you end up fighting Strahd by himself, which according to the module is kind of, in some cases, is how your players meet him, then they'll fucking annihilate him, especially if they have the ability to, say, cast, you know, if you have a couple of paladins in the party, if you have basically any subclass from Tasha's, or anybody who's metagamed or not metagamed, sorry, who's kind of power gamed and kind of min-maxed themselves a little bit, then Strahd is going to be kind of a pushover, and that's kind of disappointing. However, once again, I offer you that you can personalize Strahd. You know, one of the biggest things I think you can do is include, let him fight with minions, have him be surrounded by a couple of vampire spawn. Make it so that he's not alone, you know, that he's not just a giant bag of hit points the players need to knock down. But also give him some updated stuff. He's a fucking vampire. Go watch Castlevania on Netflix, right? Like, go watch, you know, and see, like, okay, how do they fight? What do these awesome vampires, you know, even look at, like, say, Witcher 3, like, there's vampires at Witcher 3. Go check out how do they fight and what do those encounters, you know, what makes those encounters so awesome. You know, and I especially look at things like, say, the charm person and stuff. Make it so that Strahd, you know, when the players have interacted with Strahd before, because hopefully you have had your players interact with Strahd before now, make sure you include the fact that Strahd has the vampiric ability to hypnotize people, have illusion and enchantment spells be a major part of his vendetta, of his arsenal. Sorry, not vendetta, of his arsenal. Make it so that, like, the players know going in, like, there's a very strong chance that fucking the paladin or the big barbarian may get charmed in this fight, you know, and that opens up avenues earlier in the game for the party to go out and to try to find ways to, you know, preemptively stop or better bolster themselves so that doesn't happen. But it still is an awesome, like, you know, imagine if, you know, you're a party of 4 players, you know, and you know damn well that, you know, a lot of your melee comes from one character. You go into that combat thinking, God, we got to be prepared, because who knows if Strahd fucking, you know, can charm, can dominate person this character, like, this whole combat is immediately fucking, you know, does a 180, right? So I don't know, like, just personalize Strahd even a little bit, and I think you will immediately get a better outcome. But again, if the party is experienced, if they have min-maxed, and if you are, again, playing this as rules is written, then yeah, Strahd is as good as, well, dead. More dead. Undead, but dead. Alright, so final thoughts. Out of 25 points, Curse of Strahd receives a 22 out of 25 for the most part. 23 for me, which means technically he should be at a should be at an A minus if it was on my book. Actually should be 24. I don't know why I have 22 because I docked 2 points. So it should be 24 out of 25. Sorry, but for the rest of us, I give it a 22, which is a B+. Again, the only major points that I deducted were, again, its introduction, which if you are willing to spend even a couple of hours and just, or even just literally a split-second decision of, hey, guys, you're not starting this campaign level 2, you're at level 1, you're starting at level 2. Like, I think you will immediately see a much greater enjoyment out of Death House, because now you don't have to pull as many punches. So, to me, absolutely, Curse of Strahd, 5 out of 5. I love it. I think that it is fantastic. I think that it is probably the single best module that has ever been written when it comes to D&D. And this is, again, coming from someone who has, as a player and as a DM, has played through, I believe, 6. If I had to, Princes of the Abyss, Rime of Frostmane, Curse, the Delve into Hell, which is completely escaping my mind right now, Descend into Avernus, and then we have the the Waterdeep one, the Heist of Waterdeep Heist, and then Storm King's Thunder. Out of those 6 modules, this one is absolutely single-handedly the best that I've ever played and DM'd for, and it is the one that whenever I have players that are starting off, if I have, when my group of coworkers and my fellow teachers were like, hey, we want to, we've heard about this D&D thing, and you said you were willing to DM, so let's go in. I immediately said, we're going through Curse of Strahd. I didn't even give them a choice. I said, I'm taking you through Curse of Strahd. And they fell in love with it immediately. The combination of horror and suspense and creepiness, and it's just, it's phenomenal. It's fantastic. It is a great, great, great module. I cannot worship it enough. The only thing I can say is, again, just to kind of reiterate, because these are my final thoughts, is 1, have your players start on the other side of the map and have them work towards Strahd and the town of Barovia. Don't have them start in Barovia. It causes too much of a clinking, unmashing combination where the players are told that they need to try to get as far away from Barovia as possible, only then somehow, somewhere, turn around and be like, well, never mind, Strahd's a problem and we need to go deal with him, and so now they need to turn around and go fight Strahd. It's not, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's necessarily bad. I understand why people would think that, and if you have players who are willing to have that, like, who are really good role players and they know what's coming, then sure, it might come out to be this really cool RP moment where, the players find a door that could take them out of the Ravenloft Valley and the curse of this demiplane, but they all sit there, garner themselves, and go, no, we can't abandon these people. We have to go turn around, and we have to be willing to, we have to bring the ring to Mordor. We have to go do it, right? Then it could be this really cool RP moment, but I think what you'll find is that, especially since the beginning of this campaign, you're setting the tone for Strahd is super evil, he's super bad, and you need to get as far away from him as possible. It's kind of hard to dig your players out of that mindset once you've established that. So I think it's better to start on the fringe of society already and have it building up that, like, they see how bad Strahd is, they know how shitty of a person he is, and have that kind of growing hatred, so that it's more natural that they want to go fight Strahd instead of just some weird, hey, we know this whole time we've been telling you to get as far away from him as possible, now we're going to change that, and now we want you to go fight him. I'm just not a big fan of that, so change that, change up Death House. I'm trying to think if there was any other major changes that I've made. In Berez is completely optional. That's just something I do. I wouldn't recommend it because it is a lot of work. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend it to anybody. In terms of, like, it's not something that I would say, hey, do this. Next time you play Curse of Strahd, have them go through Berez and have Strahd destroy Berez while they're there. That way they can see exactly, like, it's a great idea, but it's not something that I feel like is necessary. Changing Death House is necessary. Having the player start on the other side of the map, in my mind, is necessary. Changing up Strahd's stat block, necessary in my opinion, but I think the rest of the module is pretty damn awesome. So final thoughts, I think it's fucking great. I think I love every bit of it. I think it is a fantastic module. If you haven't gone through Curse of Strahd, if you're a DM who's like, my players want to play and I haven't done this one yet, go pick up the book, go run it. You can literally find the PDF online anymore. Not that I'm not, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying, I support the hobbies, all right? I'm not saying, to go pirate a book or anything like that, but if you're very desperate and if money is kind of tight, because these modules are $30-$40, all I'm saying is that you can find resources just about anywhere. But awesome module, can't worship it enough. I think it is easily a B+, A-, and the only reason I give it an A- or a B+ is, again, because I understand how frustrating Death House is. But I hope you enjoyed the video. It's been a while. Hopefully I will be back a little bit more often than once every few months. But being a teacher, sometimes it makes it a little hard to find the time. But whatever the case, I hope you enjoyed, and I will catch you next time.